You open your laptop. You're in the middle of a project. Adobe pops up with a notification. New terms of service. You click agree. You don't read it. Nobody does. But here's the thing. You probably should have. Because buried in that update was language that sent thousands of professional creatives absolutely off the rails. And it's just one chapter in a much longer story about how Adobe, the company that calls itself a partner to creators, has quietly become one of the most anti-consumer software companies on the planet. I'm going to break down exactly what they did, how they got caught, and what it cost them. And if you've ever paid for Adobe Creative Cloud, stick around, because some of this money might actually be coming back to you. Let's start at the beginning. For decades, Adobe sold software the way every other company did. You buy it once, you own it. Photoshop CS6, Premiere Pro CS 5.5. A one-time purchase, yours forever. Then in 2013, Adobe made a move that changed everything. They killed the Perpetual license model entirely and switched to Creative Cloud, a subscription-only service. Now, instead of owning your tools, you were renting them, month after month, year after year. At the time, they pitched it as a gift, always up to date, lower upfront cost, access to the full suite. And for a while, the pricing was bearable. But here's how subscription creep works. First, you get people hooked, then you raise the price once they can't leave. Creative Cloud's All Apps plan has jumped significantly over the years. And in early 2025, photography plans went up by roughly 50%, bundled with AI features most users never asked for. But the price hikes aren't even the worst part. Picture this. You sign up for what looks like a monthly plan, $54.99 a month, cancel anytime. Sounds flexible, right? Except the plan Adobe defaulted you into wasn't really monthly. It was an annual plan billed monthly. And buried so deep in the fine print that most people never saw it was this. Cancel before 12 months, and you owe Adobe 50% of the remaining contract value as an early termination fee. That's not a cancellation, that's a ransom. And it gets worse. Even when you found the cancel button, Adobe made you run a gauntlet. Multiple confirmation screens, upsell offers, a chat agent trained to talk you out of leaving. Users reported waiting on hold for 45 minutes just to cancel. Others said the cancel option online was deliberately hard to find. This wasn't accidental design. The FTC alleged that Adobe was fully aware users were confused about the fee. Internal data showed most customers never clicked through to find it, and they kept the system exactly as it was. In June 2024, the US government filed a federal lawsuit against Adobe, and not just the company. They named two executives personally, Maninder Sawhney, a vice president, and David Wadhwani, president of Adobe's digital media business. And the legal definition they used matters. The DOJ said Adobe violated the Restore Online Shoppers Confidence Act, a law that requires companies to clearly disclose all fees before taking your billing information, and to give you a simple, easy way to cancel. Adobe allegedly failed on both counts. After nearly 2 years of litigation, in March 2026, Adobe agreed to a $150 million settlement, $75 million in civil penalties paid to the Department of Justice, another $75 million in free services to affected customers. And going forward, Adobe is now required to clearly disclose any early termination fee before you sign up, and send reminders before free trials convert into paid plans. For a company that made over $19 billion in a single fiscal year, $150 million is a rounding error. But the reputational damage? That's another story. Now let's talk about the moment Adobe lost the trust of the people who built their business, the creators themselves. In June 2024, Adobe quietly updated its terms of service, and inside that update was a line that stopped professionals dead in their tracks. It said Adobe could access your content through automated and manual methods, including machine learning techniques, to improve their services. That single sentence triggered a full-scale revolt. Creatives with NDA-protected client work panicked. Illustrators, photographers, and videographers who had spent years building portfolios in Adobe's ecosystem suddenly feared their unreleased work could be scraped, reviewed, or used to train AI. The language in the original update also granted Adobe a worldwide royalty-free license to reproduce, display, distribute, modify, and create derivative works based on user content. That's not a service agreement. That sounds like an IP grab. Adobe responded quickly, too quickly some might say, insisting they never trained generative AI on customer content and never intended to. They updated the terms of service again on June 24th, explicitly stating users own their work, that Adobe won't use it to train Firefly or any other AI model, and allowing opt-outs for content analytics. But the damage was done. Trust, once broken, doesn't come back with a blog post. The rollout of vague, surveillance-adjacent language, in the same month as the FTC lawsuit, made it look like a company that had stopped caring how it was perceived. And then there's the Figma story, which tells you everything about Adobe's competitive instincts. In 2022, Adobe announced it would acquire Figma, the browser-based design tool that had become the industry standard for UI and UX design, for $20 billion. At the time, Figma was everything Adobe XD wasn't: fast, collaborative, loved by designers. So rather than build a better competing product, Adobe tried to buy the competition and fold it in. Regulators in the UK, Europe, and the US had serious concerns. The Competition and Markets Authority and the European Commission both flagged that the deal would eliminate meaningful competition in the creative software space, potentially leading to higher prices and fewer choices for consumers. By December 2023, with no path to regulatory approval in sight, the deal collapsed, and it cost Adobe a $1 billion breakup fee paid directly to Figma. That's $1 billion, wasted. Not on innovation, not on making Photoshop better, not on reducing prices, but on trying to remove a competitor from the market. So what does all of this actually tell us? Adobe built something genuinely incredible: Photoshop, Premiere Pro, After Effects. These tools are industry standards for a reason. But somewhere along the way, the company shifted its orientation, from empowering creators to extracting value from them. Hidden fees, dark pattern cancellation flows, vague AI language in legal documents, a $20 billion attempt to eliminate competition, a $150 million federal settlement, price increases bundled with AI features that were never asked for. This is the playbook of a company that knows its users are locked in and has decided to use that lock-in as a business model. And the cracks are starting to show. Creatives are migrating: DaVinci Resolve for video, Affinity Publisher for print, Figma for design, Audacity for audio. The Adobe Alternatives movement isn't fringe anymore, it's mainstream. The settlement means Adobe now has to be more transparent. They have to show you fees up front. They have to make cancellation easier. But it took a federal lawsuit to get there. That says a lot. If you're an Adobe subscriber, check the settlement terms. You may be eligible for free services as part of that $75 million pool. Link is in the description. And if you're done with Adobe entirely, I get it. The tools are powerful, but so is your wallet. And companies only change when the cost of not changing is higher than the cost of staying the same. Adobe just found out what that cost looks like. If this video gave you some clarity, drop a comment. What's your experience with Adobe been like? Have you been hit by that cancellation fee? Let me know below. Like if this was useful, subscribe if you want more breakdowns like this, and I'll see you in the next one.